Hello everyone. Here's Bernard's socks. You can just about see him on my lap there. It's Wednesday. It's really sunny after another disastrously rainy day yesterday when we got all the groceries in and did life admin stuff. And I did an interview for a magazine about my upcoming radio play. Things like that. Things at home, not in the shop. And this is another day off from the shop, although we're thinking about it and doing admin tasks and bits and pieces without being in the shop. Tomorrow, we embark on another 4 days book selling, back in our adventure of doing all of that. I've written a long letter today to a friend in the States who has come off social media, quite rightly, I think. And so we exchange letters now. Jess, who I've known for 35 years, and I found myself saying, I'm writing this long letter to you, and it's probably all I'll write today. Maybe wickedly, it's all I'll write all week. It sounds gloomy to say it, but it's not. I've had exactly 30 years as a novelist. As I've said before, 30 years since my first book was out. And I feel like it's probably time for a break. I don't know how I'm going to stick to that. It might be a break of a week or 2 weeks, or it might be years. I'm kind of pig sick with the way publishing is, with the way the book world is from the inside. I think writers get screwed and trashed by publishing. I really do. And I'd go into it in much more depth. People don't like that when you talk about your experiences. At least the other people I know in publishing don't. I might just stop. It's almost unthinkable. It's something I've never really thought. I thought it briefly in 1993 when I felt like I was getting nowhere sending packages to agents of stories and the rest of it. And I was rescued from those doldrums in 1993 by actually A.S. Byatt and Alan Hollinghurst accepting my first story. And that pushed me on to finish my novel that became my first novel, Marked for Life. Very few times in the 30 years, 32 years since, have I felt like I wanted just to not write and push on to the next project and the next thing. But it has cheesed me off, I must say, the way that publishing has gone. And now there's all this AI shite on top, and all the celebrity authors, and not being finding myself with no commissions and no way forward for next year is kind of a bit annoying as well. I've had maybe 5 years of producing and creating 4 books a year, which is a lot. It's a lot of work, and it feels soul destroying when there's not a lot to show for it. I've given my all to writing these things, and when you write tie-ins for Doctor Who and stuff, there's no royalties. They're treated as very second-class kind of projects, even by the fans. Even though you give it your utmost and do all the stuff, it's kind of, your reward will be in Doctor Who heaven. And then doing my sagas as Elsie Mason, I really felt that had been quite badly messed up by the publisher. We started to get a readership with the first trilogy, and they dropped the ball. I kept all my deadlines, and they dropped the ball, and there was a gap in the schedule for a year. And the books, you lose people when there's a year's gap for books like that. They have to keep coming 2 a year, and I wrote them during lockdown. I kept them going, and because they were faffing with covers and with just nonsense, they really messed it up, and it was cancelled after 6 books. I would have loved to have gone on being Elsie Mason, but that was that. So it goes, as Kurt Vonnegut says. It doesn't matter. I do feel that it's hard working in an industry where you care more than some of the people you're working with to make things happen, and that's how it's felt. in the past, you know, in different places I've worked and things I've worked on, you don't mind people being terrible at what they do, even as long as they're trying. But when you feel that they just don't care about it, and I do feel that about some of the things I've been um, uh, connected with and working through over the 30 years, not just recently, over the 30 years. I mean, I've met some wonderful people and some wonderful, talented people in publishing and writing and all the things that come with it. Um, but I've met the opposite as well. And maybe I just need a rest from it. And then it's like, how do you make a living? I don't think a bookshop can make you a living necessarily, but it's a way of trying to do that. I've had, ow, socks, he's scratching my leg. 15 years as an academic, properly an academic. Once I got qualified with a PhD and teaching experience and the rest of it, I did 15 years as an academic and felt let down by that world, really. It was everything to me. I loved having my office on campus and doing all that stuff. But academia became more hard edged and business-like in the new millennium and less utopian. And as now turns out, less about the arts and humanities than it was, which is terrible. They'll remember one day when they've replaced all the arts and humanities and culture with AI generated slop and nobody can think for themselves. They will think back and they'll go, what did we do? When did we sell ourselves out to this shit? And they'll realize, but it'll be too late. It'll be Terminator and stuff like that. So 15 years in academia in those kind of circumstances was enough. 30 years as a novelist, giving it my absolute all. And you can say what you want about what I've done, but I never stopped trying and giving everything my all. And as I said in this letter to my friend Jess, and I must have said on here as well, to get to 56 on a Wednesday and on Thursday begin a new career altogether, or semi-career, or whatever. It is a career. It's what I'm doing now. It's what we're doing now, with all our hearts. It's a career. To start a new career the next day after turning 56 feels good. That feels like proper Generation X stuff. You know, we are undaunted. We are the neglected generation. The latchkey kids of the 70s who are self-starters. We create our own projects. It's a very punk ethos. Yeah, okay, so we'll start a bookshop where we are less beholden to other people and their stuff and their not caring. And it's lovely to be in a place where you can just talk about books and enthuse about books. And bookshops are the place that's still going on. Anyway, why was I saying this? I guess I was just blagging on about why I'm not writing anything else other than this letter to Jess this week, explaining what we're up to, what we've got going on. Because of the timing of our letter writing, it's maybe every 2 or 3 months that we write to each other. So there's quite a lot of news to catch up with in the meantime, and that's quite nice. Maybe I will write something else at some point, I don't know. I've still got obligations to BBC Audio. I've got to do rewrites on things, projects for them, and deliver things to deliver. But they're rewrites and edits and things. I've got drafts of everything that I meant to deliver. And I'm not going to write a book on spec next year. I've got 2 books with my agent that I've written on spec in the last couple of years. So I'm not launching into anything else in a big rush. I will just let things cogitate and marinate and swirl about in my thinking. And I'll carry on doing YouTube videos, obviously. And keeping my journal. Of course I write stuff. I write every day in my journal. Anyway, let's think. We went to see um, Fergus McCready, the jazz pianist, on Monday night. It was my birthday present from Jeremy. We went to the legendary venue, Band on the Wall in Manchester, and it was fantastic, noisy and atmospheric. And you felt transported to this kind of far northern Scottish island where the trio recorded this LP in a living room of a cottage in January. It was music full of sea frets and fog and um, rocks and mountains. It was great. And then we met him afterwards and bought the CD. And uh, yeah, it was a good night out. There we were having a night out on a Monday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is kind of now our weekend. It's not really true. There's so much to do. There's so much to do outside of being in the shop. So much life admin, writing admin, and stuff to do with the shop. We've kind of filled up our lives a lot with stuff, but that's okay. That's okay. I like being busy. I like thinking about what needs to be done, and making lists, and getting things ticked off. What else? Oh, and last night I was wrapping up books. I'll show you in the shop when I make the next video. But I had this idea about mystery book parcels in the shop. On our way back from Whitby, we stopped in a second-hand bookshop in Pickering that's been there for 40 years. Now, Pickering is a really lovely Yorkshire town, a small town. There was a market going on, and we bought pies and sat and had tea. And then we went to the second-hand bookshop, and we bought 3 boxes of children's classics. I think 300 books that weighed down our car all the way back across the country. Pickering is interesting. It's right down the hill from the valley where, is it Goatland is, where they filmed the Hogsmeade station sections of Harry Potter, although we don't talk about J.K. Rowling. Silly cow. And it's an incredibly atmospheric station. It also looks like the station in Box of Delights. And Pickering is near where Downton Abbey is meant to be. It's not where it's filmed, but it's where it's meant to be in the fiction. Anyway, so we bought 3 boxes of kids' books. And I had this idea of gift wrapping a whole bunch of kids' books in little batches of 3, and gift wrapping and ribbons and the rest of it, and labels, and saying vintage children's classics as kind of ready-made gifts, and seeing how they go in the shop. I'm quite keen on doing that whole kind of blind date with a book thing as well. I really get the psychology of all of that people get used to seeing book covers or judge books by covers. And it's quite good just to kind of blot them out and put a little message on instead and make a bit of a mystery out of it. So there'll be stuff like that. Alongside, the other thing we've got to get sorted out is more labels. I've ordered a whole batch of labels as well as ribbons. For our Christmas tree, we've got a 7-foot tall fake pine tree that somebody donated, somebody local wanted to give it away to somebody who would be able to give it a home. In our shop, we can show it off for the community. And lights, so it's glimmering away in the shop, this Christmas tree, but we've decided it's going to stay up all year round, and people will be able to tie luggage tags to it, bright red ones, on which they will write their book recommendations. It's the book recommendation tree, the book tree, as Jeremy called it. And that needs sorting out as well a bit more this week. Lots to do. We've got loads of secondhand books to take into the shop and to price up and to move things around. Last week, I think I said this, I created our cats shelf. I need to sort out an LGBTQ queer shelf or bookcase, a whole bookcase, I think. Get some bunting up for a kind of year-long, year-round pride in the shop. And I renamed science fiction and fantasy and horror monsters and planets, and I renamed history queens and tyrants, which kind of sums the whole thing up to me. And I want to shift things around a bit. Jeremy's got ideas as well about where things should be going. So we're going to be doing quite a lot this week in the shop. And I'll do some more filming there and show you our progress and show you what's going on and get a feel for the place. I was so pleased that so many people watched and reacted to the videos that I did already about the shop. I'd like this show of mine to be a balance between the more ordinary, everyday, intimate videos that I do here at home in my study with us in the shop and doing all our stuff there, and maybe talking to people in the shop. I don't know. See how that goes. Not much book buying apart from those crates of kids' books, which maybe I'll show you some of those. There's lots of Hardy Boys, lots of Little House, and loads of Narnia. I'm still going on with my Narnia reread. I'm halfway through The Horse and His Boy at the moment, and old C.S. Lewis isn't letting me down. I found this in a charity shop. Really, it's kind of a terrible charity shop in Stockport, where the books are just kind of shoved in. They're obviously house clearance stuff. Nobody's given them any kind of love or attention. Everything's about £1, which is good. This is something from the 70s called An Edwardian Christmas, talking of Downton Abbey. And it's a book of paintings, there's no text, by John, is it P. Goodall? And it's a picture book for adults about Christmas in a big house in the Edwardian era. He did one about the summer holidays as well. I didn't know about these until... See, there's that station again. It looks like the station I was talking about. It's a really beautiful book, though. And I think if you look for it online, it's quite... it's reasonably dear to buy now. I don't think it's been reprinted. It's obviously one of these things that's a bit like the Edwardian diary of... or the Diary of an Edwardian Lady. I think that book was maybe the same time, late 70s. I prefer this. I think it's lovely. I could go through the whole thing for you. It's quite long, actually. It's a massive amount of work for the artist. And it's such a shame it's no longer available. It's such an unusual shape as well. I'm kind of buying things as I go along, as I always do. But now with an eye to things that maybe I don't personally want copies of, but I think would sell in the shop. This, of course, I want to keep. It's like poor Manette last week. You know, I find things tucked away either in our shop or other shops and think, oh, that's something good to flag up and sell on. And then I end up just keeping them myself. But I think this is delightful. Anyway, they're in CinemaScope, aren't they? That's what they are. They're in widescreen. Oh, I could be holding it like this. Anyway, I'd recommend it if you can find a copy. It's quite a relaxing book. A book with no words. I found copies of... oh, no, I forget her name. Is it Anne? No. There's an Oldham artist, a painter, who was like Lowry. And I've got one of her books. Somebody Bradley is the artist. And there was a whole range of them came out in the 70s where they discovered her paintings. And the paintings come from, I think, the late Victorian, early Edwardian period. And she paints scenes in Oldham in this kind of slightly naive style. And they're warmer than Lowry, but you can see coming from the same place, literally the same place, almost. And such a wonderful record of working class life at the time. And there's a wintry one, again a wintry one, that I found in the shop this week. Miss Carter Wore Pink is the book that I've got somewhere, and I've bought copies of for people, finding them on eBay, because I was just blown away by them. And there was a copy of that particular one, as well as this more, I think, wintry themed one. She must have done a lot of paintings in her life. There was 4 or 5 collections. And it's that kind of social history kind of painting, where somebody's providing a documentary of the world around them through their work. And again, these were kind of tucked away in the oddest place between crates outside the shop. So I've kind of rescued them. I'll show you them. There's a couple of things like that. There's a book of dinosaurs from the late 70s that's beautifully painted, that was slid between bookcases, that I've hiked out while I was dusting. These are things I might spend some time talking about when I get back to the shop, which we'll be doing tomorrow morning, first thing, earlier than usual, because there's a delivery coming in of new books. So you might get some unboxing as well on this show of mine. I hadn't thought about that. There'll be endless unboxings of things I've chosen and Jeremy's chosen that we think we ought to be stocking. So that'll be exciting. Because I think it has to be your taste. It has to be things that you think people are going to want, but there has to be a meshing of that with your particular taste, because you're putting your stamp on this bookshop. It's not just the obvious ordinary stuff that every shop sells. If you go to Waterstones, it's all the obvious stuff. Same old celebs. Although we have got a couple of celeb books, I must say. There is Bob Mortimer in our shop. And there's Miriam Margolyes, who I kind of object to in some circumstances. But we'll stock her. Okay, I'm well over time. This is 22 minutes. Who watches a whole 22 minutes of me blethering on? I will say goodbye, and I will see you next, probably in the shop. Anyway, I hope you're well and reading nice things. Sock says goodbye, but he's dozing now. I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you again quite soon. Goodbye.